Let's talk about that moment your business just explodes. It's thrilling, right? New customers, more revenue. But man, it can also be kind of terrifying because that same growth, if you're not ready for it, can bring a whole lot of pressure and chaos. In this explainer, we're going to walk through the blueprint for a team structure that doesn't just survive growth, but actually fuels it.
And this right here is the core of the whole problem. This quote just nails the trap so many growing businesses fall into. See, you can get bigger, sure, but you can't truly scale. You just end up with a bigger, more complicated mess. Real scale? That requires a blueprint. Does any of this sound familiar? You, the founder, you're suddenly wearing the hat for marketing, operations, and sales. Your best people are completely swamped. Important stuff is getting missed, and that amazing feeling of growth, well, it starts to feel heavy. These aren't just growing pains, They're symptoms of a structure that's hit its breaking point. All right, so how do we fix it? Well, it doesn't start with an org chart. It starts with the shift in your mindset. This is the strategic foundation you have to lay down before you can build anything on top of it. So let's dive into phase one. It all comes down to two core principles. Now, they seem simple, but I promise you almost every single scaling mistake comes from ignoring one of these. First, build for the future, not just for today. And second, design the role the business needs, not just the job a specific person wants. Let's break that down a bit. Now, what's so interesting here is the contrast. Our default setting is to design for today. You think, well, Sarah is amazing at marketing and operations, so let's just make that her role. That's a trap. The right way to do it is to design for the future. You have to ask yourself, what does this business need to operate at twice its current size? And suddenly you realize, wait, marketing and operations need to be two separate, distinct functions. You're building for the business you're becoming. Okay, so once you've got that future-focused mindset locked in, we can move from strategy to the actual architecture. Phase two is all about drawing the blueprint for your team.
This blueprint has 3 key steps. And listen, this isn't about creating bureaucracy, it's about creating clarity. First, we're going to define ownership to get rid of all the confusion. Then, we map out reporting lines to create leverage. And finally, we visualize the whole thing so everyone gets their role in the bigger picture.
This is so critical. In the early days, that we all pitch in attitude works just fine. But as you grow, that approach leads to total confusion and dropped balls. Think about it. If everyone is responsible for customer service, then really, no one is. Growth demands a single, accountable owner for every critical part of the business. And this is a brilliant illustration of what clear ownership actually looks like. It's so much more than a title. You can see the customer success manager owns specific activities, onboarding, retention. They are accountable for the results, like reducing churn. And it's crystal clear who they need to collaborate with. This level of detail just removes all the guesswork. Let's talk about reporting lines for a second. A lot of founders, they hate the idea of creating layers because they're afraid of becoming some rigid, slow corporation. But that's totally the wrong way to look at it. The real goal of a hierarchy is to create bandwidth. It stops you, the founder, from being the bottleneck for every single decision, and it empowers your team leads to actually manage their own areas. Okay, so you've designed your structure. You're done, right? Not quite. A team structure isn't some static document you frame and hang on the wall. Nope, it's a living system, and it has to evolve right along with your business. And that brings us to our final phase. The key to a structure that's actually effective and lasts is really 2 things. You've got to build it to be flexible from the get-go, and then you have to commit to reviewing it regularly. You want roles that can expand or specialize over time, and you need to set aside dedicated time to check if that structure is still serving your strategy. So, what's the right rhythm for this kind of review? Well, the sweet spot is about every 3 to 6 months. That's frequent enough to stay agile and make changes, but it's also stable enough that you're not giving your team whiplash. And when you do that review, these are the exact questions you should be asking. Are there any bottlenecks? Is there one person who's wearing way too many different hats, which, by the way, probably signals you need a new specialized role? And most importantly, are your hiring decisions still aligned with that future vision we talked about earlier? So what's the real payoff for doing all this work? It's a fundamental shift for your entire company. You're moving from a state of reactive chaos to one of proactive clarity. When your team has this kind of clarity, accountability just naturally goes way up. Growth is no longer this scary thing to deal with. It becomes truly scalable.
And for you, as the leader, the change is huge. You finally get to graduate from being the chief firefighter, constantly putting out little fires, to being the architect, strategically leading the whole business forward. Look, if you're feeling like you've waited too long to do this, don't. This quote says it all, really. You can't go back in time, but you can absolutely start today. The only cost of waiting is just more chaos.
So, I'll just leave you with this one question. Because designing your team structure isn't just some operational task on a checklist. It's a leadership decision. It's the choice to build a business that can actually grow with you, instead of against you.